Hey everybody, how's it going? Coming to you with another book review, and this time we're looking at Death Rider by Zamil Akhtar. This is a prequel novella to Gunmetal Gods, and I read it after Gunmetal Gods because that's where Zamil told me it was best to read this book, or this novella. And wow, I loved this little novella. And that's honestly abnormal for me, as I honestly don't tend to pay too much mind to novellas, as I tend to think of them as being a lot of unnecessary fluff oftentimes. Things that, yeah, if you want more of the story, they're better than nothing, but generally, they don't hold up compared to the novels. That's my feeling on most novellas. I don't feel that way about Death Rider at all. This was an incredible read that, even though it was short, I felt satisfied with. And did I want more of it? Hell yeah. I would have read a full 500-page book with this particular plot, for sure. But I didn't feel unsatisfied with what I got in this little, 100 pages, 92-page story. And to me, that is a testament to how interesting Zamil Akhtar's writing is, how cool the world he created is, and how unique it really is. So, if you haven't seen my Gunmetal Gods review, I recommend watching that before watching this review, because, there's a lot of information in that book that is essential to understanding this little novella and the way things work. But what I will say is that Zamil managed to change things up enough to make this book feel really fresh compared to Gunmetal Gods, which itself felt really fresh against most fantasy books, while also still very much feeling in line, part of that same world, and directly related. And the way I described Gunmetal Gods was it was epic fantasy with cosmic horror looming in the background. Death Rider is the opposite. Death Rider is cosmic horror front and freaking center, using the fantasy world more as a world setting rather than a focus. The fantasy elements were secondary. The cosmic horror, the eldritch, terror, was on full display in this novella. And it was so interesting. So, the book, or the novella, is named Death Rider, which is in reference to this particular group of characters who were sent off by their, by their leader, basically to die, because they had disgraced their country. They had failed. And so they were a suicide charge, meant to kind of soften the enemy up before everybody else would come in and take care of things. And our main character of this little book, and I can't remember the name because I'm terrible with names. But it doesn't really matter, I guess. Hold up, let me quickly open this up so I can at least refer to her properly. As I go on. I should have prepared this before starting the video, but that's alright. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let me see here. Am I not opening this to the right section? Oh well, you know what? Like I said, it really doesn't matter. Basically, the Shah sends her off on a suicide mission to soften the enemies up, but she somehow manages to survive all of these, all of this onslaught of arrows and bombs and everything else that's just raining down on her and her fellow Death Riders, and manages to make it into the city, where she discovers something worse than they could have possibly imagined. I mean, there's just people coming back from the dead, and this twisted tree at the center of the town, which I would call a spoiler, but I mean, look at the cover art. You could tell that this tree is going to be a central focus. And what is this tree? Well, it's, if you haven't read Gunmetal Gods, this is going to be a spoiler. It is one of the angels of the Crucian faith. And as we learn in Gunmetal Gods, the angels in this universe are not, these beautiful beings with wings and halos, which is what a lot of people depict angels as today. They are a combination of biblically accurate angels, which are terrifying, and Lovecraftian horror. And this tree falls very much in line. It is a tree whose roots are tendrils like tentacles that seep deep into the earth and drain the life out of those who are hung from the tree. The tree both provides fruit that give life, and when people are hung from the tree, it drinks their life and their soul until they're nothing but a withered husk. And awesome, terrifying, really cool type of scenario here. Really interesting setting for this particular angel. But that doesn't begin to scratch the surface of it all. And as our character is finding their way through this maze-like structure to get to, the leader of this town, who her Shah has sent her to kill, she's going through these twisting labyrinths, and none of it makes sense. One moment she's swimming through, dark waters, and the next she's climbing a ladder, and it's all in quick succession, and it doesn't make any sense to her. It's all beyond her understanding, and that's really the Eldritch concepts at play here. And yeah, I want to talk so much more about this, but I have to be very careful not to spoil things, because I want the reader to still be surprised by a lot of things with this little story. Honestly, I don't think you should be reading a full-blown review until after you've read the book. Not for a novella, anyways. A novel, sure, but it's very hard to talk about a novella without spoiling something, because there's only so much content here. But I'm going to stop talking about the events of the story there, because otherwise I'm going to spoil all the best aspects of it. But really, really cool. I like the twist of, why the situation is what it is, why all these atrocities are taking place, and, how characters are surviving events they shouldn't be able to survive, why everyone's getting this, feeling of deja vu. I loved this little novella. It very much felt like it satisfied the hunger I had for a bit more of that Gunmetal Gods without being a full-blown novel. And I typically can't read book in a series after another book in the same series after another book in the same series. Otherwise, I would have already plowed through my copies of Conqueror's Blood and Elder Epoch. I'm making myself wait so I don't burn myself out. But as I finished Gunmetal Gods, I had no interest in reading anything else but more of that particular world, more of that setting. I needed more. And this little novella satiated that hunger to the point where I could finally start reading something else. And I still really want to jump into more, but it did the job. It allowed me to satisfy that hunger for more of this, horrible but fantastic world and story. And so, the horror aspects are on full display here. Love to see it. If you're not a fan of horror, well, the series as a whole is probably not going to be for you. But as for me, I absolutely freaking loved it. Only criticism? I can't give it a 5-star review because it's just not enough of a story to give a 5-star review to. That may sound crazy to a lot of folks, but I can't give 5 stars to something that is, essentially a 100-page story. That may seem unfair to a lot of folks, but for me, I need to be so... A 5-star read needs to be perfect in damn near every way or in every way, and I do wish that I got more out of this. Like I said, I would have read a full novel for this. So that's the only thing keeping this back from being a full 5-star review, is that it is a very short novella. But 4.5 is what I give the story. It's incredible. I really enjoyed my time with it. The only criticisms I'm going to make other than that have nothing to do with the story. It's going to be, much like I did with Gunmetal Gods, addressing the physical edition again. Why do we only have a paperback for a physical release? I get that, it would be a very small hardcover, but it's already a very small paperback. Give us a hardcover. And I think that what Zamil is going to do with this is I think he's going to wait until he has, a few more novellas written under his belt, maybe 2, 3, 4 more, and then release a hardcover short story collection that collects all of the novellas together. And I really hope I'm right, because I'll buy it like that in a heartbeat. Absolutely would. The other criticism is There's nothing on the spine. Like, come on. At least, even if it's in very small white letters, put, the name of the book and the author name on the spine, but there's nothing here. It looks like an art book sitting on the shelf next to the other stories. So I don't love that, but that's a personal gripe. That's all it is. Give us a hardcover that contains this story at some point. If it's going to be a short story collection, a novella compilation, or compendium later, fine. I'll be okay with that. But in future prints, if you're going to do these novellas as standalones, put something on the spine. Just something. That way people can identify what it is on the shelf. That's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. And until next time, I will see you later. Peace and take care.